What if the most powerful voices shaping our world today, well, aren't the ones you actually see? The ones plastered across social media or headlining big conferences. What if real influence, especially now in this incredibly noisy digital world, is actually more like a silent revolution happening behind the scenes? Today, we're going to do a deep dive into something pretty fascinating called ghost influence. And this isn't just some fleeting trend. It seems to be a rapidly growing PR strategy. It's fundamentally rewiring how leaders and experts build credibility. It's almost ironic, isn't it? In an age totally obsessed with personal branding, maybe the most potent influence comes from people you've, well, never even heard of.
That's exactly right. At its core, ghost influence is really about founders, CEOs, maybe some very niche experts building up massive reputational capital. But crucially, without ever needing to step into the spotlight themselves, they're not chasing personal fame. Instead, they genuinely let their ideas do the heavy lifting. It's a fundamental shift, really prioritizing the message over the messenger.
Okay, so let's be clear, though. This isn't just standard ghostwriting, right? Where someone else simply writes your blog post or something.
No, not at all.
This sounds different. We're calling it ghost positioning. It's thought leadership, sure, and it's done anonymously, but it sounds like there's this incredible tactical precision behind it, almost like an invisible hand strategy.
It absolutely requires a concerted effort, yeah.
Yep.
The key players here are often sophisticated PR teams, increasingly advanced AI tools, and some really clever digital strategists.
Okay.
They're all focused on cultivating what you might call a faceless presence.
Faceless presence. Well, through things like micro-authorship. That's where an expert's core ideas get published in small, very targeted content pieces across different platforms, often under different names or brands, and also strategic credibility layering. That just means building trust by having their insights subtly reinforced or referenced by multiple, apparently independent sources over time. The end goal is pure influence, not personal celebrity status. Okay, so for this deep dive then, our mission is to really peel back the curtain here. We want to unpack how this invisible form of influence actually works. We want to understand who benefits most, and naturally, we have to touch on the interesting ethical questions it raises. Questions about how we consume information and, frankly, decide what's trustworthy. So let's start there. If ghost influence is this new frontier, how is it really departing from the, let's say, traditional playbook? For ages, thought leadership meant being everywhere, right? Guest spots on podcasts, keynote gigs, the very visible social media game. How is that changing?
It's a complete reevaluation, really. The fundamental shift is that brands and the leaders behind them are now consciously choosing to embed expert ideas into the conversation, but without needing to attach a specific face or, frankly, an ego to them. The move prioritizes the message itself, its quality, its impact, its ability to resonate way above the personal fame of whoever originated it. Think of it like intellectual property gaining traction purely on its own merits, rather than, riding the coattails of a charismatic individual.
That's a really powerful distinction, but doesn't being seen often build that resonance, build trust? Is there maybe a risk that by prioritizing the message over the messenger, the message itself loses some credibility? Especially when people often trust faces more than abstract ideas.
That's a totally fair point. And yeah, it is a calculated trade-off, definitely. But the counter argument, or maybe the strategic calculation, is that by removing the individual ego, the ideas themselves can be adopted and amplified much more widely. They aren't constrained by one person's public persona or, potential controversies down the line. These individuals, the ghost influencers, they certainly don't show up in press releases or at big launch events. Instead, their insights are shaping industry narratives through very specific, often quite subtle channels.
Okay, right. So if they're not on the evening news or headlining conferences, how do their insights actually get out there? How do they shape these conversations? How do we sort of meet them?
Well, you don't meet them directly, usually. Their knowledge finds its way out through things like white-labeled blogs, for instance. That's where their expertise fuels content published under another company's banner, maybe a research firm or a think tank.
Ah, I see.
Or you might see structured expert Q&As where their knowledge is showcased anonymously, perhaps in a detailed industry report or a white paper. There's also what's sometimes called insight placement strategies.
Okay, what's that?
That's where their unique perspectives, maybe it's a novel framework they developed, or a key statistic they uncovered, are carefully woven into broader narratives being told by others. Think of it appearing almost like a footnote in a major industry study, or being cited by an academic but without direct attribution back to the original ghost. It just becomes part of the accepted knowledge.
Now, this next piece, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The technology angle. How do AI tools actually contribute to this whole invisible influence thing? It sounds like way more than just, grammar checking.
Oh, it's far, far more sophisticated than that. AI plays a really crucial, often completely unseen role in this. These tools can use sentiment analysis to figure out the public mood around specific topics. They can identify narrative gaps, places where the current conversation is missing something, and they can even map media trends in real time.
Wow. So what does that allow?
Well, it allows the ghost influencers, or maybe more accurately, the PR and strategy team supporting them, to insert their specific insights into just the right conversations. They can do it with perfect timing, with the precise tone needed to be impactful, all without ever revealing the original source. AI can pinpoint exactly where a piece of information will have the most leverage, the most resonance.
That's fascinating. So if this influence isn't being broadcast to the masses in the usual ways, where does it thrive? Where are these quiet but apparently powerful conversations taking place?
Yeah, what's really interesting here is how influence seems to be moving increasingly into these quiet circles.
Yeah.
There's a definite shift away from just broad public reach towards more private, more exclusive channels.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, so we're talking about influence that really blossoms within, say, private advisory networks or highly specialized niche Slack groups where real experts gather. Also, carefully curated exclusive newsletters that only go out to a very specific vetted audience, even things like private investor briefings.
Right, closed doors.
Exactly. These are environments where deep, trusted insights are valued above pretty much everything else. And the direct attribution to a public figure, it just isn't the main goal there. It's more about getting access to exclusive, highly vetted information. The who becomes less important than the what.
I can definitely see the logic there, especially in those very niche, high-stakes environments. But okay, in a world obsessed with viral hits and fleeting fame, how do you actually build durable credibility? Credibility that lasts without constantly chasing headlines or needing to be the center of attention. Doesn't that slow burn just get overshadowed?
That's a really great question, and it points to a very deliberate long-term strategy. It completely sidesteps the typical media frenzy. Instead of aiming for one massive viral splash, these teams focus on stacking micromentions.
Stacking.
Yeah, stacking. Like carefully curated quotes, low-profile citations, maybe unattributed contributions across a whole variety of platforms, but over an extended period. Months, even years. The ultimate goal here isn't that fleeting fame or a momentary spike in Google searches. It's to create what some are calling durable, Google-proof credibility.
Google-proof, meaning?
Meaning the ideas themselves, the core concepts, have built such a robust, diversified online presence, referenced here, cited there, discussed in this niche forum, that they become less vulnerable. Less vulnerable to a single negative news cycle hitting a person or a personal scandal taking everything down. The ideas themselves are harder to erase or discredit because they're not tied solely to one visible person.
Okay, that makes a lot of strategic sense. So let's pivot to the leaders themselves. What does this all mean for those leaders who could be famous? They have the profile, they have the expertise, but they consciously choose not to be in the spotlight. What are the strategic advantages of this deliberate invisibility? Feels almost counterintuitive in today's world.
Yeah, it does seem counterintuitive on the surface, but for many high-stakes leaders, particularly those in, say, sensitive or highly regulated industries like finance or pharma, choosing invisibility offers some incredibly compelling advantages. For one, it allows for consistent brand building for their organization or cause, but without the intense personal burnout that often comes with constant public appearances and that always-on social media demand.
Right, the personal toll.
Exactly. It also provides much tighter message control. They can ensure their core insights are presented exactly as intended without the risk of misinterpretation or being taken wildly out of context by the media or competitors. And maybe most powerfully, it allows for strategic ambiguity.
Strategic ambiguity, how so?
Well, imagine a company navigating really complex M&A discussions. Or maybe a policy expert trying to subtly shape discourse way ahead of a major legislative vote. Making direct public statements could easily backfire in those situations. Strategic ambiguity lets them exert influence, get their points across in key circles without revealing their full hand or intentions prematurely. It protects them from, unwanted market reactions or political blowback. It's a powerful tool.
That makes a lot of sense, especially in those really sensitive scenarios you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But this definitely raises an important question for us and for you listening. When ideas are being so carefully positioned, but without clear authorship, how does that impact things like authenticity and trust, especially in the broader information ecosystem? Is ghost influence misleading?
This is precisely where the critical debate really lies. It absolutely sparks a crucial discussion around what even constitutes authenticity in our digital age and how we measure trust when the source isn't immediately obvious. We really have to consider, should ideas truly stand alone, judged purely on their merit, regardless of who penned them? Or does a lack of transparency fundamentally undermine our ability as consumers of information to critically evaluate what we're reading or hearing? It forces us to grapple with the implications of this kind of invisible power that shapes public discourse and industry direction without ever showing its face. It's not about being preachy here, but it is about acknowledging that inherent tension, that push and pull between strategic advantage for some and the broader need for clarity and understanding of where information comes from.
Ghost influence. It's undeniably reshaping the PR and leadership landscape. It really demonstrates that profound impact can be achieved through quiet strategic positioning
Yeah.
rather than just relentless self-promotion. It's a surprising but clearly effective approach for some.
Absolutely. And it really leaves us with a provocative thought, something for you to consider as you go about your day. In a world that seems increasingly, maybe even excessively, obsessed with personal branding, how much does the face behind an idea truly matter? How much does it matter versus the inherent value and the actual impact of the idea itself, especially when that idea is deliberately and carefully positioned without a visible author attached? It's something to think about.